There we go, and I should be live on YouTube now. There you go. Stinks that Kick and Rumble aren't working very well right now, but you know what? Whatever. Whatever. Okay, what in the world, YouTube? You're acknowledging the fact that it's actually working. So why isn't it actually working? What in the world's going on here? So come on now, I closed you. Okay. Why are you doing this to me, you machine? Guys, never trust machines. They're always gonna be rude to you and bug out. Oh, it's working. It's working. I was wrong. I was wrong. I was wrong, machine. I admit it. Okay. And this time I should have it working on whatchamacallit. I should have it running on YouTube Shorts as well. So hopefully I get views from that. Right now I'm trying to close Opera, but it's being a butt. Refusing to quit. There we go. Force quit. Yes. Yes. Force quit Opera. There we go. Now that Opera's gone, I should have more performance because I'm using Brave for the things that I need for the stream because I haven't changed that. I haven't changed my default to Opera. Well, I did at one point, but then I changed it back because I'm just more used to Brave, you know? More used to Brave for my main stuff, for the stuff I really need. More used to Opera for the stuff I have fun with. No. Yeah, I did a little bit of building since the last stream, which I assume very few people wound up watching, but hey, it's not impossible if more people watch. Unexpected. Oh wow, Timmy64E just followed. Was that like a right now thing, or was that a while ago? I think it was a right now thing. Hello, Timmy64E. Thank you for following just now. The stream just started, but it's nice to have people look at this. Yeah. I think I'm gonna have to shrink my render distance. As you can see, I'm using Lunar Client this time. I'm using Lunar Client because it's just gonna. It should help with performance. It's not helping very much right now. Actually, no. I think it's helping. I think it's probably helping splendidly compared to what I had before. But yeah, it's probably not gonna help too much. Uh, I'm gonna quickly just cancel the Rumble and Kick outputs because those two are not working right now. Dude, I canceled. Oh, you're playing this game with me, aren't you, Kick? We go, right? Did I cancel it? There we go, I canceled it. I wish it would work on Kick, and I wish it was easier to get to work on Rumble, but right now it's just not doing that, which stinks. But yeah. But yeah, just gonna circle around a little bit, show y'all the world. And yeah, I did do, as I think I just said, I did do a little bit of building since last stream. I finished this area over here. I think, and this area has made me realize that I could probably do some things with these like little areas here, because I knew I was gonna do something with them, but I wasn't sure what. So like this area here would be like the immigrations and border custom, because at one point the Panayan region, which is now back part of the part of a Charavan empire, but the reason why the wall exists is because at one point they seceded and became their own thing. So yeah. But I could like build a bunch of towers in here using the wall and other things, like taller towers than just these like military towers right here. Actually, like big tall towers, and then use those. I could use those to to build this immigration and border customs area, and then this area could be something else. I don't know what, but it could be something else. I really realized that with this one because, like, as you can see here, there's entrances here, but the issue with this is that if you put an entrance or an exit anywhere in here, like, this area here is Panayan territory, along with this and stuff, but the reason why, but the walls are here, in order to take out anybody who tries doing an who tries to form an invasion. This area right here was like primarily made to trick people into thinking that this was the entrance, when really the entrance is over there, which is also why the walls are all there. But this area was primarily meant to trick people into thinking it was an entrance, so Imperial enemies could cross over or through St. Mary's Park into this little area here, and they would then try to enter only to be pummeled with a bunch of arrows, which they would have anyway, even if this was an entrance. However, it would not have gone well for them. They would have just totally lost. But anyway, yeah. So last time I was streaming a few weeks ago, I was working on these walls, and that's why I'm gonna finish up here. If we get some people watching, then I'm probably gonna keep going. I'm probably gonna do more things than just that. But if we don't get full viewers, I'll probably just continue full wall until I feel like stopping. And yeah. So far the shorts viewers, because I figured out how to dual stream this thing. So far the shorts viewers like don't really exist right now, which stinks. But hey, maybe they'll pop up. That'd be cool. I don't even know how to test for the shorts viewers because of how this works. Yeah, I hope this works with live chat. Otherwise, that would kind of stick. Hope this works with live streaming. With the shorts, I mean. Anyway, so I'm gonna get started here. And we're gonna finish up this area here. And then probably move on to actually like finishing the towers first of all. finishing the towers so that they actually like work, like see this. Yeah, no, that's gotta be fixed. But yeah, finishing the towers, and then if we keep going long enough, like if I get enough viewers and stuff, we're gonna go and start actually finishing up these walls here fully rather than just these. So I didn't realize this until earlier today, but it is actually faster to not fly while doing this and to just do this. Like, this makes so much more sense. I don't know why I thought that was faster to fly. Because, like, I can just hold it down, and when I'm standing on a block, I have a perfect distance for placing free. Because you can't play. Because there's a very thin line where you can place free and still be flying above a block. Very thin line. And it was like getting really annoying to work with that thin line. Let's see. I should have restarted my laptop before I did this, but I don't want to have to deal with that. Probably wouldn't have helped too much with the lag, but it probably would have helped a little. Because it's been lagging pretty harshly during today. Hold on. I'm gonna turn off some of these. This, I think, is probably just lagging me. I like this, but yeah, I think it's lagging me. I don't really need this. This is cool, but it doesn't really work very well. And I think it's also lagging me, so I'm gonna get rid of that. This, I don't even really know why I kept it on. I mean, it's okay. It's cool, I guess. Just, yeah. This could be useful. This here can be useful. I think I'll keep that on. I think that's actually working. I think that it's running a little smoother now. Oh, still big lag spikes though. Oh yeah, I haven't turned down my render distance. I was gonna do that after showing you all this, but showing y'all a bit of a world, but yeah, I'm gonna lower it down to yeah. Stinks how I have to have such low things. And this is my good working computer too, so I don't know why. Well, then again, this world for a while, especially since I started building wall, I think it's because of a dripstone has really started lagging. Because this is like a massive world. It's like over a gigabyte. I think it's starting to encroach upon almost 2 GB world file. Yeah. Oh, shit. Oh yeah, but between now and the last time I streamed, I wrote a new like little book for this. I think I only showed y'all one book last time. It was a liturgical book for the whatchamacallit. It for Minot, the would be Lion God of Minotos. Hello. No, this is not pre-recorded Reform Repentance. I'm just streaming right now. Nice to see you on the live stream. Thank you for chatting with me. Considering what I'm seeing now on the now on my second computer's monitor, which is watching this stream so that I can actually see all of it. You probably won't see this, so I should probably actually send like a little chat right now. Maybe I'm talking while you're doing this. There we go. Here we go. No, I just typed in chat probably when I was actually saying it on the live because of the lag. Yeah. How have you been doing, Reform Repentant? You probably won't see this till I forget that I asked you that, but uh, laggy stream. Oh, bonk. There we go. I bonked my head. Oh, I forgot I did that. I'm glad you've been doing good. And I was correct. It did take you a while. Not long enough for me to forget, though, so I guess I wasn't 100% correct if we're being totally honest here, but whatever. I'm a bit of a narcissist, so I'm gonna insist that that I was correct anyway. Oh yeah, and this is gonna have to get even deeper because of this. You know, how I built this wall is painful, but you know what? Whatever. Whatever. I'm trying to make it interesting for myself. Well, that's gonna be where the wood beam goes, so whatever. It can be like that. Oh, nice. What's your next video gonna be about? That's probably one of the nicer looking caves on this world. Fair enough, fair enough. Of of ver of Luffy is a great guy, but yeah, but gotta be reformed, man. Oh, yeah, this is a real. Oh, never mind. The closer I get, it's more. The more I'm like, oh yeah, actually, this is more danger. It is a nice cave though. So if I could, so if I wasn't doing this, if I wasn't building this wall, I might even like find some in-universe deep stuff with this, but it's not. But building a wall right now. So I mean, I could still probably add some weird deep history to this cave. It's just that it would be. Oh, actually, huh. The wall doesn't necessarily need to be relevant to any deep lore with this cave. I just need to make it something with a so that deep lore, something that the Panaeotans don't care about. Huh. But yeah, I should, because new viewers are here, I should probably explain a little bit of what this world is. So, back in, I think it was 2023, yes, I randomly booted up a world and decided to like destroy this one village with a bunch of like ghast and stuff, huff and withers, and I would just like try to survive as long as possible. But then for some reason I decided, you know what? I'm gonna turn this into like a whole massive history filled thing. So then I started uh bill I started finding other villages around, giving them unique stories. I think some of my first ones were like Cheruband and Zombica and Deepland. And of course the original village I founded, which I then named Abandonia. Well, over time, especially early 2024, but since it's still grown and grown, this idea I had kept growing and growing, and I started developing more and more history as a part of it, and eventually I got to the point where it is now, where it's this big, it's this big like empire, the Cheruband Empire, which is which consists of. Hold on, I'm gonna pull the map up here. Oh my goodness, the inventory's lagging. Why is the inventory lagging so much? Uh, yeah, the Empire, which consists of all these things you see in the south, except for Mount Befrezen and Anphravarni, as well as Edessa, Hagar, Gizdi, and Lundryliad. Those ones are completely separate nations. But like you have in the north, I think the northernmost one is Minotos. And then on this map, on this map, this is going to change because I am going to build more and more. But on this map, the southernmost one is Nesu Uruk. The easternmost one is Riverland. However, I already have a city farther than Riverland called Eastland. Yes, I know. And that one is part of it. And the and the westernmost city on this map again. It's not it's not going to be accurate, but the westernmost city is Deepland, which you can actually see Deepland right over here. This is Deepland. And this empire is like big, big. It was born at the very end of a different empire, and by that I mean this empire is what killed the other empire. The formation of this empire killed the last empire. So there have been three major empires in this region of the world where the empire is. There has been there has been the Pana Empire. Nobody really knows the original name, though I am starting to develop like kind of a not too much of a language, but like the beginnings of a language. And so the name, I am starting to figure out what the name might have been of this empire here. And that kind of was in like this major western region here. And then slightly smaller but still big was the Urukian Empire with Paratu Uruk as the capital. Also the city of Pana Uruk was the capital of the Pana Empire, but Paratu Uruk was the capital of the Urukian Empire, which was born quite a long time after the Pana Empire fell. It was born because I haven't decided why that empire was born. I know why the Urukian people are the way they are. It's because the Gagizdis within the Odessa region, which the Odessa region comprises the Odessa, Gagizdi, and the Paratu region. But the Gagizdis were killing all the Urukians, partially because of the fall of the Pana Empire quite a long time before that, because during that time they were united. But then, and that caused the formation of Nadbak Uruk and then Parata Uruk. I haven't decided how the Urukian Empire formed, but it did eventually form. And shortly after the Urukian Empire formed and it annexed Naramu Uruk, Naramu Uruk was destroyed like miraculously, and it became Abandonia, which you can see isn't exactly on this map, but there's a reason for that. So Abandonia. So then, at the very end of the Urukian Empire, there was a man named Bandarius from Cheriband, and he decided, or Cheribandus, sorry, I always forget that that's technically the name of the city. The empire is called Cheriband, but the city's called Cheribandus. I mix it up. But Bandarius, who was named after their god Bandus, because I've developed like this whole pantheon for these things, he decided to rebel and and wage war against the Urukians. Almost lost, wound up winning the civil war, and then annexed all the areas of the Uruk that Paratu Uruk that the Urukian Empire once had, as well as some areas like Deepland. That's the city of Deepland, which were not annexed at that point, but the Urukian Empire had chosen to annex them, and then they also formed a strong alliance with the Zombateans, which that's a whole nother story. I'm going to talk about them another time. But then a few generation. Oh wait, no, I'm forgetting a plot point. Sorry. So then the empire very shortly after it came into existence, missionaries from England. Nobody knows how people from Earth get there to this world. It has happened in the past. The Firstly, every human in this world is canonically a descendant from people who were from Earth, but nobody knows how they wound up getting there. And then ever and then after during before during the time between the Pana Empire and the Urukian Empire, which is that this was actually like very shortly before the Gagizdi situation, where the Gagizdi were just killing all the Urukians. Uh, People, some Akkadians, Chaldeans, whatever, Babylonians, they came and gave the language of Chaldea and the worship of Shamash to the people of this western region, which then later formed the Urukian Empire. But yeah, so then English Christian missionaries, Covenanters to be specific, they went. They had arrived in this world and began preaching the gospel. Now, some of them wound up being missionaries to regions farther away, so they survived. But most of them wound up being executed by the officials of the various religions. However, it moved the people so much that eventually Bandarius himself, the first High King of the Cherubandite Empire, he became a Christian and then was executed for that, despite being the High King. And very quickly afterwards, the whole empire began shifting towards Christianity, especially since the temple was mysteriously destroyed after her Bandarius's death. The temple to Shamash, that is. But then the so then we had, and here's why I started talking about. Here's why Abandonia is still important. So the empire. A few generations of High Kings later, one of them was named Bandaralf, and he was a Christian. It is debatable, even in universe, as to how Christian he was, especially considering how he died. That's another story for another time. But one thing he did was he built St. Mary's Park on top of the site of Abandonia. He terraformed all this area, which I actually did terraform this, and there are buildings underneath this. Let me see if I can actually show y'all a building underneath this. Yep, you can see the cobblestone there. The old city is underneath this. But he made St. Mary's Park. One controversial decision he made was he actually made like these icons of Mary and the archangels, which most people, because they were Covenanters, most people were opposed to. That's like the biggest theological issue in the empire in terms of Christians, whether or not iconography should be allowed at all. But yeah, and then he did another controversial thing, which was controversial with everybody, which was, well, almost everybody, not everybody. Years. At least 3 years. That's how long I've been developing this lore. But when he built St. Mary's Park, he also built a statue of Naramu, who was, well, the first Naramu, technically, because Naramu is a title. Well, it's the title of the queen of the Cedar region, which the Cedar region is over here. Cedar Tantuatine, that is, which is these two areas here. Technically, Iltanu Sida and New Waladyave are Sidan areas. However, they are like Sida. Iltanu Sida is run by the High Prince of Iltanu Sida, who has never gotten along with the Naramu, except for a few occasions. And there have even been multiple times where the High Prince has assassinated Naramus. And New Diave has always just been a separate kind of its own kind of thing, you know. But the at the very first Naramu, it was she was like mythologized, and they built a whole and the worshippers of the old Pana religion saw her as a goddess who married the chief god Pana, and so that's why this region was named Pana Uruk, and it's also why not Pana Narama Uruk. That's why this region was called Narama Uruk, and it's also why the I another reason why it was called that was because the Naramu, who was also the prophetess of the region, what was also the queen of Naramu Uruk before having to flee to Sita because of the Abandonian disaster where Abandonia was destroyed. But yeah, so Bandarauf, he was controversial in that he built this statue of her, which firstly, the reason why she's pointed east is because he wanted to expand eastward, which was it wasn't the most controversial idea within the empire. I mean, not eastward, westward. Sorry, which wasn't the most controversial decision in the empire, but it wasn't like it was something everyone wanted to do, you know. And then the more controversial thing was one, you now have a statue of a old goddess that most of the empire is no longer worshiping. So huge parts of the empire were still worshiping her, but most weren't. They earned. He justified it by saying that it was purely for cultural purposes, which most people wound up accepting because her worship of her was dying very quickly anyway. However, others who still worship the pantheon of the Panaiottan gods, they were offended at this statue because not because of the statue itself, but because it was made as a purely cultural thing, you know, which then kind of starts getting us into why this wall was built here. So the empire the empire here was becoming increasingly more and more Christian, and over time, the and this construction right here, on top of other things such as the fact that one of our high kings who had a name of a former god changed his name to High King John Peter purely for the sake of Christianity. He was a young king, and he was like, "Yeah, I worship Jesus Christ. I'm gonna name him after some of his followers." That caused the cities of New Waladyave, Pana Uruk, and Nessa Uruk to go into a fit. And all of these ones already had tensions with the empire. Pana Uruk and Nessa Uruk were part of the areas of the empire who fought against Bandarius when he rebelled. Nesu Uruk felt like they did not get enough out of a rebellion and felt that they probably would have been better off by not joining the rebellion, and even though they did. If I remember correctly, I could be misremembering, but I don't think I was. I don't think I'm misremembering. But yeah, so they all kind of got really upset at the Empire to the point where they were like, nope, we're seceding and we're building this wall to show that we're seceding. And that's exactly what they did, which is why I'm currently having to build this wall for in order for this to be the case. I mean, I guess I'm not having to build this wall. Well, actually, no. At this point, I am having to build this wall because if I stop now and I was like, you know what? No, I don't want to keep building. That would be such a waste of time. It would look ugly because it was unfinished, and it's like, no, I gotta finish it now. But yeah. So eventually, the Panayata region, which is what the coalition of Pana Uruk, Nessa Uruk, Uk, the Uk, New Walid Yave, and eventually, the more cities, which were built by those free cities. Eventually, they wound up coming back into the fold of the empire. Here, there was a war that happened in order for that to be the case. The empire itself didn't start the war. They were trying peacefully to get it resolved, but they weren't afraid to use force. So a lot of the empire was in favor of you, like Deepland specifically was in favor of using force against the Panayotans. But the Panayotans, they struck first. They attacked the empire. I haven't decided exactly how that went down yet. It would have had to be like on one of the seat-ins, you know, probably not on St. Mary's Park because like nobody lives there. So it's like you attack it, fine. We're just gonna fill it back up with dirt. We'll be upset, but whatever. Uh, but the but yeah, so probably one of the seat-ins they attacked, or maybe a ship that was passing by. Uh, but the that would have been more satisfying if it didn't lag so much. But yeah, so they attacked and went to war. Uh, I haven't really decided the exact lore of the first Naramu, so maybe that was it. How I always saw the first Naramu was that the first Naramu was just was just like seen as as a normal prophet, but then she was deified afterwards. But yeah, I'm not entire. I should probably, if there's anybody else watching, I should probably clarify what you said in chat. Reform Repentance said, "What asked was there anyone who created a religion and said God told me I'm a prophet and I can prove it from this revelation I made?" So basically, like a wannabe Joseph Smith or Muhammad. Uh, and yeah, maybe the first Naramu, probably people like from much ancient days to the point where their names aren't even known to me. But like if you're talking about like Christian heresies, I haven't thought of any specific like Christian heresies on these that have cropped up yet. Unless you count either iconography or iconoclasm, because those are like the two biggest ones. Or if you count buildingless churches, is because that is a movement. It's not like they're not necessarily buildingless. They do have a building. They Most of them do have buildings for weather purposes, but there is a movement for outdoor churches within the empire. Honestly, if something like that were to happen, where there was someone who was like, "Oh, I'm a prophet, God told me so. I wouldn't be surprised if it came from modern Conquestia, because so Conquestia, how Conquestia exists and why the empire expanded eastward is because is one time the god Gizdi who had thousands of years before, because the Arukian Empire lasted thousands of years, and for a long time before that, the the Gagizdi out of the out of the Odessa region, and because of Urukians, they got kicked out for trying to kill all the Urukians, and the Urukians themselves kicked them out. According to Urukian tales, many of their primary gods that they had prior to their syncretism with the religion of Pana, that they had. What am I talking about? Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. The Urukian, uh, they attribute it to their gods, mainly the sword. That is his name, the sword. Where he is goes along with the axe, which is another one of their gods. But like the the Gagizdi got kicked out of that region, and so the Gagizdi wound up settling over in the eastern regions and founded a camp called Conquestia, and then he, eventually they went straight to Charaban during an era of a post-Christian Charaban Empire. I think I might even make it during the time of the Panaeotin stuff, during the reign of High King John Peter, who by the way, he was still High King when the Panaeotin stuff ended. So like the Panaeotin stuff, it lasted like quite a while, but not like hundreds of years, you know. But so as vengeance, because the Gagizdi of the mountains killed thousands of Charabandites, they ate they went on a conquest to pretty much destroy the Gagizdi. They weren't the Charabandites weren't perfect, like, you know. But they went on a conquest to destroy the Gagizdi. They drove them out, and they thought they actually got them all, and were actually kind of upset, because they were like, oh shoot, we just genocided a whole group of people. We probably shouldn't have done that. But they didn't actually get them all, which is why Odessa Gagizdi is on the map. They still exist for just hiding. Officially, Conquestia and the Empire as a whole do not acknowledge the continued existence of a Gagizdi, but they just objectively do exist, you know? They objectively do exist. And so after the Gagizdi were kicked out of the East Hern region, well, more like the middle region, but still, it became a military city known as Conquestia, and that very quickly turned it into its own like military agency for the empire. And then a few hundred years later, that military agency, which this is now the modern era we're speaking of right now, that military agency began to become corrupt, and they kicked all the Zombatans and put them in. They kicked all the Zombatans out of Tanayata and out of their nomadic lifestyle, and put them into Zombica, despite all the previous Imperial alliances with them. Under the claim that Zombitans, or now the Conquestians call them Zombicans, under the claim that they are literally just zombies. But here's the thing: the Zombitans are not just zombies. So how it works here, and this is like a scuffed thing, but I thought it was cool when I decided to design this part of the lore, is that the Zombitans are actually the descendants of zombies. So, like, a human gets bitten, they become a zombie, they die, become a zombie. Yeah. But what if those zombies had their own children, and it kept going on till the zombies, and they kept having more kids and more kids and more kids. Those kids would eventually no longer have the zombie virus, and that's where the Taniata come from. The Zombitans come from. The Zombitans are the descendants of zombies who over multiple times of having kids eventually lost the zombie infection, because after just a few generations they're still a zombie, but after many generations they just become full of humans that just look a little greener than your average human. Oh, and that's what the Zombitans are. They are full humans that just look a little greener than your average human because they're the descendants of zombies. He's and but Conquestia decided, you know what? No, that's not the case. We no longer consider them as human, and we consider them as a threat to safety. So we are going to just put them in this one little region called Zombica, build a camp by it called Protectatan, so that we can protect society from the zombies, these highly intelligent zombies. And then we're just gonna take give we're just gonna take their city of Taniata, which I'm gonna get into Taniata another time. Taniata has a whole bunch of lore to it. Here's a hint. Here's like a small snippet though. The Zombitans are normally nomadic, though every once in a while they will go as like a ritualistic ceremony to Taniata. But yeah, so the Conquestians would and kick them out of Taniata and put a chair and put just normal people from the Empire in it. And it's like a big controversial thing within the Empire, like especially if you go to Deepland, because Deepland is just that kind of city. You'll see a bunch of signs saying things like "Free Zombica" and stuff like that. It's like a big, huge controversy among humans and among normal people and Zombitans alike. And this controversy is something that is haunting the Empire, but the High King can't really do much about it, because here's the thing about the Conquestians. The Conquestians have given themselves a lot of power, and they have forced the High King and the Imperial Courts to give them a lot more power, to the point where they have attempted. I haven't decided yet if they've ever been successful, but Conquestia has attempted assassinations against the High King, against High Kings who oppose the doctrines that Conquestia is trying to push. So, if there was anybody who would pull a Joseph Smith or Muhammad and try and be like, I am a I'm a prophet of God. You need to listen to me. It would probably be like a ruse built by Conquestia in order to ensure full political submission. Does that make sense? But yeah, so far that currently doesn't exist. His his I may add something like that later, but I have not yet. Yeah, sorry for that big long explanation there. I've just developed things in this world so much that I have like whole histories here that don't entirely make sense, but yeah. I don't know why it took me this long to realize it, but I just realized that my sound for Minecraft is off. I don't know how that happened. Oh yeah, that's right. I intentionally turned it off like a while ago because I was listening to stuff while doing it. Man, I must really never have the sound on because the sound of mud bricks being placed, ugh, not a fan, honestly. One thing with this specific wall is that it's made of three distinct, like four distinct materials, or which show the three major cities that it's based off of. It has mud bricks, which that comes in the center, which that comes directly from Nesu Uruk because Nesu Uruk took their building materials from Paratu Uruk. It's made of deep slate, which makes sense because Pana Uruk is made of deep slate. That's what all of our buildings are made of, and it has a dripstone on top. I'll show you. I'll show y'all one of the more complete walls now. it has dripstone on top, which is related to Nessa Uruk, not Nessa Uruk, New Waledyave, which V's on top are actually connected to the spike-like structures on the buildings of Sita Tantuateam, Lightopolis, and Scalazia, as well as the pattern on the Iltanocida things. Iltanocida didn't understand the pattern. What happened was that during the Abandonian disaster, a bunch of heads of people would start flying from Naramu Uruk, from Abandonia, into Nuweladieve and Sita Uruk. And in order to prevent building damage, because they normally would care more about the people than building damage, but it was just getting overwhelming. They put spikes on top in order to catch on top of their buildings in order to catch the heads, and then they would properly bury the people. Gruesome, I know, but it wound up working, and so this area right here, which is the Scalazian area of Sita Tantuateam, the reason why they have all these skulls here is because that was their custom. They had them all pointed towards Abandonia. Even after St. Mary's Park was built, they still did that with some skulls that they had. They unburied a few and then did that because it was like, never forget what happened to Naramu Uruk. It was meant as a memorial. Like, this would be weird. This would be something weird and gruesome in our culture. I know I wouldn't like it, but this is something that they did. The Lightopolis people, they did not like that. Instead, they preferred to put just the lanterns on top of their spikes. And then, during Bandarius Rebellion, thousands of years after the Abandonian disaster, one issue that cropped up, because again, this was pre-Christian, this was before they all became Christian, was that there was a skull that was believed to be holy, because at one point, the lanterns, you see how they're all holding lanterns? The lanterns turned blue and the skull turned black. So, like, just imagine soul lanterns and then a wither skeleton skull, you know? And they were like, oh my goodness, this is a holy skull. This was a holy skull. It's pretty much a god. It's not necessarily a god, but it's pretty much a god. We're going to worship it. The Lightopolins never liked that. They always have been strongly against that, but they didn't complain. And then during Bandarius Rebellion, in the Urukian Empire, they used that to their advantage. They wound up igniting those tensions, those religious tensions between the Lightopolins and Scalazians, which caused them to split into two cities, which is why they're currently two cities. However, they operate as one city under Naramu. When they originally split, they did not operate as one. But then, during the reign of Bandaralf and the Naramu Maya, who was Bandaralf's wife, if they wound up putting their differences aside, especially since they're now all Christians. They don't believe in the Holy Skull anyway. Yeah, and they wound up putting it aside. As you can see, the shortened version is Ralph. I don't know why I decided on Ralph, but later on I changed it to Bandaralf to make more sense, you know? But they put their differences aside. They turned the old temple into a Sita Unity House to encourage unity between them. And there's a whole document here explaining how that happened. I'll probably read that for y'all another time. One issue with that document is that for some reason something bugged out, and sometimes the last part of the document was not int is just not present, and I don't entirely remember what I wrote there. So yeah, I'm gonna have to figure it out. And then yeah. Well, moo to you too. Ha, he got in the lava. I intended for him to get in the lava. I did not intend for him to die before he went in the lava, but I guess it makes sense because I have the Neverite sword. So I guess it makes sense. For a while in this world, I actually always had strength on me and speed. Like, the strength was 255. The speed was not very fast. It was just a little extra. Maybe I should turn that back on because that was actually, like, really useful, you know? I normally also like to have the daylight going, so it actually, like, changes from day to night, but at the same time, it makes it so much harder to build, you know? But then again, I'm using Lunar Client. I can just turn on full bright. Or even in vanilla, I can just turn on the... could just give myself night vision, which I think I also gave myself for a while in this world. Because again, I've been using this world for years. Oh, that's some nice music. Are y'all viewers hearing that weird squeak that randomly happens? I don't know what's going on. Also, I hope I'm not actually peaking with my audio, because Meld is telling me I'm peaking, but I'm not entirely sure. If I've been peaking with my audio this whole time, that's gonna be unfortunate. Yeah, but again, what in the world? It's like a computer glitch sound. What in the world? And it sounds like nails on chalkboard, but very brief, so it's not even like... Man, this wall is taking me longer than I thought it was. Then again, I explained a bunch of lore for no reason. You know, I genuinely consider just never making this world public. Oh, the Iconoclast people. Oh, so there was only ever one skeleton skull that was worshipped, and it's currently gone. Or at least let me check. Maybe it's not gone and I'm just misremembering. I can actually show you an example of what the Iconoclast, of one thing the Iconoclast did, because one thing about all these people is they have a high love for history. Yeah, there's nobody knows where the skull that was once worshipped is, so maybe it was destroyed, maybe it wasn't, maybe it's just lost, maybe it just naturally got stepped on by a cow or something. Nobody knows where it is, but that was the only worship skeleton. But yeah, Scalazia is one of the areas where their church, they share a church with Lightopolis, but they are more open to iconography. Lightopolis is more iconoclastic, so as you can see here, they replaced the angel, which was like that's an imperial symbol. It's not like an actual word. It was never actually worshipped. There's only one instance where an angel was like kind of worshipped, and it's not because the angel itself was worshipped, but because the angel replaced an old an old idol that was destroyed. Not even by the iconoclastic people, just over time. But yeah, so in more highly iconoclastic regions, they will replace the angel statues, even like in small neighborhoods of cities. They will replace the angel statues with low crosses here, and that is allowed imperially. Yeah, these I forgot to remove them. I don't know how I never knows. Oh yeah, because it looks ugly. Anyway, whatever. This is like a very rare example of their iconoclastic churches. They most of them are significantly less liturgical in their look. They look significantly less like an Eastern Orthodox church in their looks, but all of the iconoclastic ones share is that they have no icons. And then we have like the more strict one. And then as you can see here, here's the capital cities. They're called Strictite. That's what they call them. The iconoclastic ones call themselves. The iconophiles, they call themselves Openites. But the iconoclasts, they call themselves Strictites. And this is actually right across from the Imperial Mansion, which is like actually like a really small thing compared to what you would expect the Imperial Mansion to look like. And as you can see here, they replaced their crosses with this. But this is the capital city, and thus it's a big city, so so not only do they allow for more open expressions, but they also allow these old things to not be worshipped. They do not allow worship of them. They have outlawed the worship of the old idols after the Pantheon stuff happened, and but they do allow them to exist as cultural expressions. This was actually the mansion of the first High King, Bandarius. And as you can see here, this looks more like what that city looks like, and that city is the Urukian Empire. And as you can see here, this little area here is like kind of the remaining evidence of the fact that this city, well, not necessarily the people. The people already existed because Charaband existed in some form during the Pana Empire, but it never really recovered after Pana fell. But then the Paratu, the people of Paratu Uruk, they wound up colonizing this little area, and they annexed the people of they annexed the actual Charabandite people, and eventually just exploded. But yeah, this is the mansion of the first High King Bandarius, and in it you will see. Yeah, this is there's like a lot of symbolism to this. I'm not gonna get into. Oh, and as you can see here, this part was added at the very end of his life. At the very end of his life, he secretly added this. And then he went and had the speech where he proclaimed himself to be a Christian openly, which caused his execution. But yeah, you can come up here in the mansion, and you can and it's like a museum. It's essentially like a little museum here, and you can read. There are 4 books across the 2 towers, and they're all about Bandarius, the first High King. Kind of like how you have things with Lincoln or the. Oh, actually, thinking about it, maybe I should do that for Bandaralf too, because of how important he was, and High King John Peter, but he, but yeah, so he because of how important he was, and the fact that he was like the first High King, they turned his mansion into like a little museum thing. This was a dining hall. All right here. And yeah, I might read like a lot of the books I have here to y'all on a different stream. Yeah. And then coming over to here, we have Minote right here, and Minote, they are actually the only city to completely destroy all their idols. They destroyed every single idol they had. The only one that survives is one that was already moved hundred hundreds of years prior. Actually, no, not hundreds. Actually, probably hundreds, actually, because the temple was there before Bandarius, but before hundreds of years before one of their main idols, well, smaller idols to their god Minot, was moved over into the temple. So that is the only example we have of an actual idol made by the Minotos people, because they destroyed all of them. They were very good iconoclasts. And as you can see here, when I originally built this area, it pretty much it was pretty much just me kind of like testing out various different types of roofs. That's why we're all different. But here is the prime example of one where they kept it for cultural purposes and historical purposes, but they are very much iconoclastic. So they had this is Mount Portugal. It really needs to be updated, but it's a mountain-based city, and you can see here the symbol of the more iconoclastic cities is where instead of the angel, it's the cross. And then here, old idol, avoid idolatry, Christian. And then over here, repent if you commit idolatry. And then here is their old idol that they used to worship before they were Christians. So they still have it for historical and cultural purposes, but they try to desperately avoid any form of idolatry. And then here's New Constructia, which is a principality of Deepland. It's just like this is the newest city in the empire. As you can see, it is also the iconoclastic Strictite. That's because the Strictites are like the most popular group in the empire. The Openites are less popular, but they do have a sizable portion, especially after Banderalf, who with St. Mary's Park was kind of like the founder of the Openite group. Yeah. The major cities like Haratu Uruk, Cheraband, Pana Uruk, Deepland, and New Waladiave, those all have like half Openite, half Strictite church populations, not like half exactly, but you know what I mean, where they have both. And actually, I haven't built only a few places like the Deepland have two churches. But most of those places I have only built one church so far. Like you saw the Strictite church in Cheraband. So far, that's the only church in Cheraband. I need to build another one for the Openites because that's popular. And then I'll probably build an outdoor like little thing for them, which I didn't really show you. But the Minotos is like primarily like the outdoor ones, which despite the outdoor thing being like not normal, that's actually like the most conservative group. The ones who think that church buildings are themselves an issue. They don't think that they are like entirely an issue, and they do have buildings for like weather related indoor services, but the outdoor people are the ones who are the outdoor people try to avoid buildings and instead have outdoor services with nature. That's like with iconoclasm and iconophilia being like the first biggest controversy in the empire. That's like the second biggest controversy in the empire, whether or not in terms of Christian theology, that is, whether or not the worship should have buildings. But yeah, no, so far as anybody knows, an iconoclast did not destroy the the supposedly Holy Skull. It's just that nobody knows where it is. I can actually give you an example of the most openite church I have so far in the Empire, which is in New Waladiave. As you can see, New Waladiave still has like their idol up. So even though they are partially openite, partially strictite, they are culturally more open, you know. But yeah, this is a primary one. And this is actually the weirdest one because these this is probably this is like the third biggest theological controversy in the empire, but would probably become the first if most people knew about it. Which is that for some reason they have Eucharistic fish in this specific in the Church of New Walajeve. Hold on, let me see. Oh, I did not give it a name. Oh, I need to give it a name. But they have Eucharistic fish in New Walajeve, and they tie this to the feeding of the 5,000, where Jesus gave them bread and fish, fishers of men, and the thing they mostly tie it to is the fact that after Jesus' resurrection, he ate fish, and they say, and they tie that to baptism, where they say, hey, where when baptism you die and rise with Christ, and just as such, you're eating and drinking Christ's death in the bread and the wine, and you're eating Christ's resurrection in the fish. This is the only church that believes that. It's a really weird and unusual church, and if most other places in the empire knew about this, they'd probably condemn it. Yeah. So as you can see, they do have icons because this is the example of the openite church. They have the Hall of Holy Prophet Moses, which this is essentially the fellowship hall. As you can see, we have decaf and cookies in this chest, and coffee and cookies in this chest. And then we have the baptismal of the Holy Virgin Mary in this one. And you get baptized in that. Again, this is an example of the openite church, and most openite churches would also reject the Eucharistic fish idea. This is the only church in the entire world that believes in a Eucharistic fish. It's very strange, but yeah, this area, once I expand it, which is going to be huge, it's going to go all the way to the wall and stuff. It's going to go all the way to the wall in this direction too. It's not going to go over here. Over here, I'm going to build a new city. But once I do that, there's going to be a second church probably over in this direction because there's enough space to where it's needed. Which is more strictite. They're not denominations. They do not have separate denominations. They are all in full communion with each other. However, it's just that most areas are not. In most areas, they have different expressions of how they confess their faith. And so they go along with that. However, the thing that the strictites stress is that the openites, so long as they don't bring their idolatry into an openite church, into a strictite church, I mean, are fully welcome to join them. Same goes for the outdoor people. Yeah. As you can see here, this is the strictite church of Deepland. Deepland. No images. It's just a very simple one. And there's this massive cross here because they're trying to block out, not very successfully, but they're trying to, well, not necessarily block out, they're trying to orient the people coming in and out of church towards the cross and not towards the imperial angels, because they are strictites. They aren't fans of the imperial angels, so they build this massive cross to keep people's focus on that. I need to replace these lightning rods at some point because I made them back before they could rust. And then here's the Openite Church of Deepland, which, as you can see, there's just a few images here. And there's a whole beacon up there. Oh, and then you can go in here. And the communion stuff is up here. Very much Openite stuff. The Openites are like you are like if you cross us traditional Catholicism or Orthodoxy with very slight but not very bad theological liberalism. It's not it's not like actually what we would consider theologically liberal, but it is technically theologically liberal, especially in the context of this empire. But yeah, so now the whole empire is Christian. There's not really, other than a few individuals here and there, of course, there's not really anyone who's not a Christian, other than the Zombicans, who are currently who they like don't. There's not really anyone allowed to evangelize to them because of the Conquestians. The Conquestians, yeah, the Conquestians, you could probably argue they're most likely not Christian. They're kind of evil. But yeah. But yeah, so I finished that wall there. The actual like inner mud part of a wall. Don't know if I want to continue with the towers or not, because even though we have been getting good interaction, good views, all that, I am getting a little tired, and especially of talking. Honestly, I like to talk, but actually talking is a little, yeah, for me. So yeah, it's only been an hour and a half, but I could probably just here. I actually haven't checked. Let's see how many people currently watching. I know you are. Reform Repentance, and thank you very much for interacting with me this whole stream. This has been great. Only free watching so far, which would include you, of course. But yeah. Yeah, they probably would. The question is whether or not they really know about it, because they do have a lot of they do have the full Bible. They have a bunch of theology stuff, but the issue is that they haven't had any real connection with Earth since the English came. Since the English came and were martyred, and some survived, which is actually how they have valid presbyters here, because some survived and evangelized elsewhere. So once they are in a place that I'm actually planning on building, I haven't built it yet, but yeah, it's a farther away place in the southwest, and so they have valid presbyters because because the missionaries, who included some presbyters, some Covenanter presbyters, did actually like survive, and they ordained more presbyters at once they were ready. Oh, I haven't finished these little things yet. I'll do those off camera. Actually, no, I'm still talking, so I'm gonna do those right now. But the trying to figure out what I'm saying. I got lost off track. Oh yeah, but I don't know if them, the English Covenanters, and they don't know how to get to Earth. Nobody knows how Earth got to them, and considering the fact that it's only happened, to my knowledge so far, 2 times, where people, 3 times I mean, because humans wouldn't even be here without people coming from Earth. The fact that it's only happened 3 times indicates that people from Earth don't know how to get there either. So, like, nobody really knows how a way to get more information, which is why I'm saying that I'm not entirely sure if they really know what the Ichthys fish is. Like, considering the fact that these are English Covenanters, it's a miracle that they actually know what the Ave Maria is, which they do know what the Ave Maria is, but it's still, like, a massive surprise, because it's like, why did English Covenanters have anything with the Ave Maria on it? But they clearly must have, because in that open night baptismal room, there were books that had the Ave Maria and the Jesus prayer are in them, and there are and in St. Mary's Park there is a book with the Jesus prayer and the Ave Maria in it. So nobody knows. So I don't know how they got it, why the English Covenanters had it, but they must have, which is why the more open-eyed people have it. The closed-eyed people are like, yeah, no, the English didn't teach us this. Which actually, if you notice in those churches, they use the English flag as kind of like their standard cross, because the English flag has the cross in it, and the people who evangelized to them were English Covenanters. I hope I did not do an anachronism there, because I designed all that like quite a while ago. I know if there are anachronisms here, because one thing that is incorrect is that I have a few books of the Bible, not the full Bible yet, but I have a few books of the Bible in Minecraft books here. I'm not even sure if I can do the whole Bible in a Minecraft book without book banning myself. But there are a few books of the Bible in here, but they're all in ESV, which is like a total anachronism. It doesn't work out. Oh shoot, I forgot. These are gonna be purchased off the bench. Yeah. I just thought of a perfect example of a Striktite church. I mean, I thought of it multiple times in the past, but not on this stream so far. Hold on. Normally I have higher render distance, but since I'm streaming, it's probably gonna lag it out well, I know it's gonna lag it out if I have a higher render distance. Oh, here's the city of Pana. And this is that one angel statue I was talking about, where the angel statue has never itself been worshipped, but it's replacing a statue which was, you know. Oh, and then this one here. This one. Ooh, oh my goodness. The rockets aren't stopping. Here we go. This, oh yeah. The, the Temple of Malflame Eternal, which the scholars of the Trimillennium College, which it's technically part of Pana Uruk. And once I expand Pana Uruk, it's gonna do it. They compare it with the biblical Molech. I used to have it say that it's identified with that, but that doesn't really make sense from a historical perspective in either direction. You know, it's compared with the biblical Molech. The flame of the Mouth Eternal, also known as Hiru, was put out by High King John Peter I. This was probably towards the end of his life. It was after the Panaeon Rebellion ended, and it got reunited with the Empire. Naramu Miriam II, so the Naramu of Sita Tantuatim, the queen of Sita Tantuatim, and then the king of Pana, John I, the first Christian king of Pana Uruk, as well as biblical studies dean who is named Solomon. And yeah, for a while in this world, I actually had it lit, but then I was like, you know what? If I'm gonna have this area Christian, even if they're just having this stick around for the sake of cultural and historical purposes, they're not gonna let that fire stay lit. And so yeah, they put out the fire in this because as what would happen here is people would be shoved in here and then sacrificed. And there's actually that I guess that area will be for another time, but there's a whole competing empire known as the Alu Empire, with here in the southeast, which is comprised of people mostly from the Panaeata region, so Pana, Nesuruk, Nualiave, and then the various cities I'm gonna build that were built during the Panaeon Empire time. Will have they will have the what am I saying? The Alu people are people who wound up continuing to worship the Panaeon in Empire after the full Christianization of the Panaeata region, which that happened pretty much during the rebellion. Like New Walidiave was the strongest. They had a deep underground Christian population, and that began to grow in all the other cities. And yeah, so it was very easy by the end of the war with Panaeata to reunite them under Christendom in the Charabandite Empire here. But those who rejected Christendom and rejected Christianity, they wound up going to the southwest and forming the Alu Empire, not to be confused with that earlier country that I haven't named yet in the southwest, where some of the missionaries the English Covenanter missionaries wound up accidentally escaping to. Right before all their compatriots were executed. That one became fully Christian, which is why it's not united with the Alu Empire. But the Alu Empire, they specifically worship Hirotugiru. But so yeah, over here, so this is gonna be one of the ones where I'm gonna need to build an Openite church. But right across from one of your old idols, ironically enough, the Iltari. Iltari is not who the empire is named after. Not who Iltar Anusida is named after. Iltari actually, according to their myths, named himself after Iltar Anusida. Yeah, this is the most clear example of what a Strictite church would be, which is just a very plain church, but like very pretty. Saint John the Elder's Church of the Iltanu Sita Uruk. Anyway, I'm sorry I didn't get to your question right away. I was still explaining a bunch of things. But your quote, but Reform Repentance asked, does anyone in Valour or lack any semblance of the original Greek and Hebrew manuscripts of the Bible, or did any of the Covenanters preserve some before they died? I'd have to say that there were that with what they had when the English Covenanters, which was hundreds of years ago, both in real life and right now, in Earth terms, hundreds of years ago in Earth terms and in Valour, which they are equal. The time is equal between Earth time and right now time. But the Covenanters brought some of what they had at the time in terms of manuscripts of Greek and Hebrew. Well, not the actual manuscripts themselves, but like copies of manuscripts. But they didn't. But chances are they didn't actually bring everything. So for the most part, they probably just have the English translations of it at the time, which would be either it would probably be the Geneva or the KJV, one of the two. I'm leaning more towards Geneva, but the issue is that they somehow managed to, because part of the reason why the English came is because I wanted to explain why they speak English. But the issue with that is the fact that they speak modern English. So, like, they somehow managed to develop that, which is an issue no matter what. This is part of Nessa Uruk. Nessa Uruk is like right over there. This is like a little prison they made. A little prison island. It's never really worked very well. As you can see down here, here's two escapees. I normally try to kill them, but right now I'm not gonna. But yeah, and they graffiti all over it. They broke the wing off of this statue. Yeah, I had fun with this little area here. Actually, you know what? I don't have much to do, so I am actually going to show you. Ooh. Where'd it go? Oh yeah, that's right. I'm gonna build another city in here, which was built during the Panayan region. The Panayan Empire's time. But here is the first city of Yalu. It's not the only city, but I don't want to go grab my southwest map yet. So yeah, and here's their quite ugly temple, the Hirotugiru. Ugh. And as you know, as I explained, they do sacrifices here. very evil, very evil. And as you can see, they are opposed to Cheraban. But not only that, they think that Cheraban no longer exists, that it died the moment that the Empire became Christian. So yeah, they believe themselves to be the fourth and final empire in the Empire. So like this isn't actually the flag of the Pana Empire. Nobody knows if they even had a flag, but this was the flag of Pana Uruk, which was the flag they had during the Urukian Empire, and is the flag they currently have, with obviously a big X on it because they think that the Pana Empire is dead, which it is. The Pana Empire is dead, and then Baratu Uruk's flag with an X on it because the Urukian Empire is dead, and then Cheraban's flag with an X on it because they think Cheraban's dead, and then their own flag without an X on it. And I'm actually gonna read this to you. Might not read the last line because it's it gets a little freaky. Yeah, I'm gonna assume the position of the priest, of the evil demon worshipping priest here. I'm gonna assume his position. The ancients have been destroyed. Pana's dear empire raised. The Urukians have fallen. The sword and the axe lament. And then they would bow northwestward towards the city of Baratu Uruk in reverence. Cheraband abandoned the gods. Bandis has been disgraced. Bandis was, of course, I think I mentioned this earlier. He was the name of the god of Cherub, and they would raise their hands. May we always sacrifice him, for he devours the souls of our unwanted. Cast the undesirables into his throat till our empire falls, for our emperor is a judge. His judgment save those desired and demands a burning of those who are not. So as you can see here, one of the main ideas that the Alu people and those who worship Hirotugiro as a whole have is that undesirables are actually like an ontologically bad thing, which is like a disgusting idea, I know, but it's something that these people believe, especially the people of Alu, because they didn't just continue in the worship of the pantheon of Panaiotans. They essentially formed their own split off religion where they primarily worship Hirotugiro. Hirotugiro is now seen as their like chief god deity, which is horrifying considering the fact that even in the pantheon, he was considered like a very evil dude, and the only reason why they sacrificed to him was to avoid his evil. But the Alu people, they actually like really like him, which is terrifying. Uh, Praise be to Hirotugiro of Abertu Alu. We will kill for him. We will kill for him. He will kill for him. And that last part, that's like a refrain in all of the Panayotan liturgical things. Not all of them, I guess, but most of them is the idea of killing for an emperor, for one of the gods, which that was like a thing that came about during the Urukian Empire. The Urukian Empire, my goodness. The religion was already evil and bad enough. They were worshiping demons. During the Urukian Empire, it got worse and worse. Like they genuinely believed love to be evil, which was something that Bandarius rejected, which is why Bandarius eventually is at the end of his life became a Christian. But that's like something that's very actually like really inconsistent with the original pantheon, because in the pantheon, there's a lot of in the original pantheon, there was a lot of emphasis that Pana, their chief god, loved Naramu, the first Naramu, and Naramu, the first Naramu, loved Pana. So it's like they're like the Urukian Empire just made it even more evil than it already was, as with refrains about killing for the gods and they pretty much saying that love is sin, which it's no wonder that with such a loveless religion, they imagine a loveful religion like Christianity eventually rose to prominence. It's, sorry, I'm drinking lemonade. Let's see exactly what 100 is. I'm bored. I want to keep building. Well, I should want to keep building because I need to. I need to actually get this project done. But at the same time, I don't really want to keep building. I've hardly even built this one because I've been flying all over the place talking about lore, and yeah, I'm still like I don't want to keep building. I'm bonkers sometimes. Cold ocean. Brr. Oh, went too far. Yay, now I know exactly what 100, 100, 100 looks like. Might as well before I go, because I think I'm gonna hop off pretty quick here. I've been streaming for 2 hours, which, I mean, I should probably stream for longer, but I don't really wanna. Before I hop off, I think I'm gonna read what I wrote since last stream, which was their new creation myth, which I just randomly watched a video about creation myths and how most fiction are not very diverse in them, so I decided to cram a bunch of creation myths into one to create this one. and but yeah, might as well read it just for fun. Baymar and Mabam alone existed. This book, but this text right here actually existed, by the way, since the days of the Panaeotan Empire. So this is like the key text to discerning the most ancient forms of a Panaeotan pantheon, pretty much so far. Baymar and Mabam alone existed. They loved one another and had children. Himar, Madagar, Mabar, and Bagam were their names. The sons and daughter knew not their own power. The sons and daughter accidentally caused a world to come into being in play. The sons desired to be distantly ruling in gods over the world, but Bagam felt a deep love for the world. Bagam chose to divide herself into all the other gods. The sons mourned their sister, yet their parents, in mourning, blamed the world. Bamar and Mabam conspired against the world, with Bamar boiling rock in the earth to erupt in, and Mabam seducing Bagam's favorite creation, mankind, into wickedness and evil. Oh, so like that's one of the interesting things about their very ancient religion. They don't account for the fact that humans originally came from Earth. They think that they just appeared when the whole world came into existence. That was the most ancient idea that they had. I don't know if that changed over time yet. I haven't really delved into the idea of creation myths with these guys yet, until now, of course. But that's like that seems to be what it's mostly all about, with them. The sons, loving their sisters, chose to protect the world she loved. The brothers waged war against their fathers for 10 trillion millennia. Man, and did they overshoot. They really overshot how long the world existed in this myth, causing chasms to form which filled with the blue blood of Bamar, Mabab, and their sons Himar, Madagar, and Mabar. So according to the most ancient religion of Pana, all the water is blood. Yeah, I said that I am making all this lore. I never said that this lore wasn't weird. this lore, especially the lore of the pre-Christian religions, I try to make it simultaneously realistic and interesting, while also showing in the very religion themselves their flaws, and the fact that they are just objectively wrong about a lot of stuff. The brothers eventually defeated Bamar and Mabam, with their bones being used to construct the realm of the dead. And then this part here, this was after the Urukian Empire formed, where the gods who came from Bagam's division of self, like all the Pana Council, Flaming Throat, and Iltari reside. So according to their religion, Flaming Throat or Hirotugiru and Iltari, that was the bear thing from earlier. They live in the realm of the dead, which was made out of the bones of Bamar and Mabam, but a lot of that came after the Urukian Empire was formed. 12A was Pana Empire stuff, 12B was Urukian Empire additions. Himar, Madagar, Mabar, and Mabar instructed their sisters' gods on how they are to rule, and that they are to cherish humans just as Bagam had. A free place Pana, whose older name was Bamar. Again, we have the Urukian stuff and the Urukian Empire era stuff and the Pana Empire era stuff, in charge of all the gods, and decided once again to be distant. Himar, Madagar, and Mabar will return in the final days for the Great War. 15A was clearly like the Pana Empire stuff, and then 15B was the Urukian Empire editions, and the Great War of the fourth and final millennium of the college. So, like, one of the big ideas that they had, especially towards the end of the Urukian Empire, because that was when the Tri-Millennium College turned 3,000 years old, was like very shortly after the Pana Empire came into being. There was an idea floating around that the end of the world would be when the Tri-Millennium College reached 4,000 years and became a Quad Millennium College, which hasn't occurred yet. Not only has the end of the world not occurred yet, but also to be fair to them, I guess it hasn't been 4,000 years yet. It's only been 3,000. Probably like closer to 3.5 or 3.25 thousand, really, because yeah. But anyway, when Hirutu-Giru breaks from Begam and devours the whole of a world. So the idea is that Hirutu-Giru, the Flaming Throat, who has always existed in Panem religions, and like the city of Panaruk is for the most part, you can see right here that that's not entirely true, was for the most part the only part of the Pana Empire that actually survived the end of the Pana Empire. Most other places, like you can see here, their buildings got destroyed. But these here, for the most part, and then you can see here, this is another example of one that got destroyed and then got built up by the Urukan Empire, and then got finished, and then got destroyed again, so it got built up more by the Charaban Empire. It's very ugly, but they turned into a church. It's clearly an openite church, as you can see. There's icons everywhere. But they have always worshipped as like an evil god they don't like, Hirutu-Giru. Well, they don't anymore, of course. They're Christian now, but they used to always worship him alongside all the other gods. Which, by the way, this is the female god. I think I named her Mabam, or is that her mother's name? I can't remember. Yep, that was her mother's name. Begam. That's right. This is well, it's an angel replacing her, but it also kind of designed to look a little bit more like what she was for cultural purposes. But this was Begam here, and then Madagar Maybar. No, not yeah, Madagar Maybar and I can't remember her name. Himar. Madagar Maybar and Himar over here. Her, but like they always had the same. Since the Pana Empire, they've always had the same sets of gods. They only like added on more, like especially during the time of the Urukian Empire. Which this whole temple here, even though it existed during the Pana Empire, it's used. Well, it's not used exclusively. Here's Pana right here, their chief, very old chief god, and then you have the sword and the axe, and then the chief god, which I can never remember the name of because I named him something really weird, of the Urukian Empire. But they always have the same set of gods. They just added more, and because Christianity couldn't do that, that's why they did all this. They did the Pana Empire stuff, the Panayata, not Pana Empire, the Panayata stuff, because Christianity is an exclusive religion and cannot be done syncretistically, and they didn't like that. So they've always worshipped Hirutu-Giru and always saw him as evil, and the belief that they had back before they were Christians was that Hirutu-Giru would break from Begam. So Begam, of course, the goddess who they claim split herself into all the other goddesses. They claim that Hirutu-Giru would split himself from her, become his own entity independent of her existence, and then devour the world. And the sacrifices were the only things keeping him at bay. But yeah, so they have a long This world has a long history, a lot of different religious stuff. They're evil or evil demonic pre-Christian religions, and then of course their post-Christian religion, which is all one denominate Presbyterian style denomination, and but with three different sects of thought. Hot. The oh the of course there's openite, strictite, and outsiders. Which I don't know if the outsiders is like the official name I'm giving him or not. The openite and strictite I've already put that on signs, so I'm already claiming that as the official names. But yeah, we did some progress on the wall, not enough progress, but you know what? Whatever. This was good enough progress. My goodness, I keep saying, no, what I keep accidentally misspeaking. But we did some decent prod, voice not work, work voice, work voice. But we got some decent progress on the wall. We talked a lot about religions, both ancient and modern, of the empire, as well as a lot of the politics. And yes, till my screen shows me as this in this way. That way I can make sure if there's not any more things to talk about before I hop off.